Darling, named after Charles Henry Darling, who came to the Cape as Lieutenant Governor in 1851, was founded on the farm Langfontein in 1853. The farming community of Darling, which concentrates on the production of wheat, grapes, potatoes, peas and dairy farming, is situated 65 kilometers from Cape Town on the west coast. The seasonal kaleidoscope of yellow wheat fields in summer, rust-colored vineyards in autumn, rich green hills in winter, and the immense beauty of the wildflowers in spring gained some added color when the off-road racing fraternity hit town for the Nissan Dealers 400. Highlights of which are brought to you by Ford, Toyota, Nissan and APSA. 17 special vehicles and 25 production vehicles made the long haul from KwaZulu-Natal, Northwest Province and Gauteng to the Western Cape late in March for round one of the South African Off-Road Car Championship. The Nissan Dealers 400 broke new ground in that it was the first time that an off-road event had been held in the region, and also included two interesting newcomers to the sport in the form of Mark Renier and Alfie Cox.
Originally when Tiara said to me that's the route we were going to go, I was wondering if it would be the right route for me, but I quite enjoyed it, and nowadays in life I think you've got to adapt to everything that's thrown at you, otherwise you get left behind.
Nissan Motorsport had decided to concentrate its efforts on 3 Class T super trucks and a dealer-supported Class D and E effort.
So exciting, and first time I got in the car was this morning. Took it for a little spin up there. I got Henry Testeka as my navigator. Apparently he's very experienced, so I think I'm in safe hands. I hope he's in safe hands with me, and like they said to me, I'm under no pressure. I only have to basically finish this year, gain experience, and just get the car around the circuit, and I can't ask for any more than that, not having pressure. But you know what it's like when the flag drops, it's in your blood, and I'm almost sure we're going to give it a full go. But exciting, I just cannot believe that it's happened, and I'm not finished with the motorcycles. Everybody thinks I'm finished. I've still got a 2-year contract with the Dakar. I'm not finished with the Dakar, definitely on the motorcycle side of it, and but this car door to open for me is just something else. I mean, 40 years old now. I've been racing for 23 years, and yeah, it's a new experience, and I don't know if it's going to excite me like a motorcycle has, but definitely it's just the best thing that's happened at the moment.
The prologue to determine the starting positions for Saturday's main event comprised a fast 68-kilometer section, which included farmlands, vineyards and sandy trails. Hannes Grobler and Richard Lee gave early notice that they intended to dominate the event when they set the fastest time in the prologue in their Class T, proudly South African Nissan hardbody. The veteran pair won the last 4 events of the 2002 Bankfin Off-Road Championship and were intent on making it 5 in a row. Former production vehicle champions Geniel de Villiers and Francois Jordan had dominated the early part of the 2002 season with 3 consecutive wins in the Nissan hardbody. De Villiers hails from the Cape and had a significant fan base in attendance throughout the weekend. Multiple champions Arpi Reinecker and Robin Houghton were 3rd fastest in the Class T Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and would start the main event 4 minutes behind pacesetter Grobler. Newcomer to Class A for unlimited special vehicles, Gerald Mundell and co-driver Bill Bond were 4th fastest overall and 1st in the special vehicle category in the locally designed and constructed Prolong Bat. Atang Machagenene and Mike Stangel were 5th fastest in the SAM Racing Jimco, only 19 seconds behind Mundell. The Botswana-born businessman won last year's Barberspun 500. Tosca farmer Piet Haasbroek and new co-driver Freddie Skippers were on the pace in their Class D Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and could be relied upon to put in a hard charge for a podium finish. Klerksdorp-based Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo did not have the best of seasons in 2002, but were confident that the newly formed 3-car GBS Nissan team would bring home the bacon in 2003. KZN driver Rob Gurney was in fine form in the Class B John Rao-designed Autoworld JRE and posted the 8th fastest time in the prologue, ahead of some of the more fancied contenders. Andrew Birkin made the transition from production vehicles to special vehicles and put up a good performance in the Class B Wingfoot to claim the 9th fastest time. KZN cane farmers and 2001 Class E champions Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham were the leading Class E qualifiers in the diesel-powered Ford Racing Ranger and rounded out the top 10. Mark Ronier and veteran Chris Birkin had a bit of a wrong slot in the Vineyards, which cost them valuable time and had to be content with the 11th fastest time in their Castrol Toyota Hilux, only 2 seconds slower than Schroeder. The reigning Rotax Max World Karting Champion appeared to have adapted well to his new role as off-road racing driver. Francois Smith qualified 12th in his Nissan-powered Class B Sandmaster, but would sadly retire from the race early the following day. "22-year-old Scott Abram and 54-year-old Richard Carolyn swapped roles in the Nissan Dealers 400. 13th placed Abram made his debut as a driver, and Obert, as he's affectionately known, made his as a co-driver. Marius van Vuren had a new co-driver in place of his wife Tracy, and he and Chris Marie qualified 14th in the Alberanti Land Rover 110 Defender. They had Dakar star Alfie Cox breathing down their necks in the Nissan Hardbody. Cox and co-driver Henny Terstegen were only 10 seconds slower in their first outing together, and Cox didn't even seem at all fussed by this slight overshoot, even finding time to acknowledge his fans. Hannes Steyn and Ferdi Segers were consistent performers in 2002 in their Roger Taylor-built Class E Toyota Hilux. The lanky Steyn was only 29 seconds slower than Cox in the more powerful Class D Nissan Hardbody. Veteran rally and off-road driver Cassie Kutsia and co-driver Okip Fourie were in action in a new diesel-powered Class E Castrol Toyota Hilux built at the Toyota assembly plant near Durban. They qualified 17th in the prologue. Arthur Van Zwiel and Piero Antigo were 18th fastest in their new Class D Thorpe Delta Isuzu. The pair had campaigned a Mitsubishi Pajero in past seasons. Reigning Class E champions Hugo de Bruyn and Stefan Elof seemed to be off the pace of the rest of the Class E field in their Toyota Hilux and had to be content with 19th place, almost 2 minutes behind class leader Cronier. Neil Woolridge and Ken Scholthammer had to make do with a Class E Ford Racing Ranger, which they entered in Class T to score maximum points, when their accident-damaged SBM-built Ford Ranger did not arrive back from France in time for the race. Winner of 2 races in 2002, John Weir Smith and Jeff Minnett had dramas before the prologue and almost didn't make the race.
Say thank you very much to Toyota for giving us their prized mechanics to come through and help us out and get this problem sorted out. Otherwise we wouldn't be racing today. Thanks a lot.
Reigning production vehicle champions Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith had moved up to Class T, but their run in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody was short-lived. The starting order for the Nissan Dealers 400. Nissans grabbed the top 2 places, with production vehicles accounting for 6 of the top 10. Makhekenene would have to play catch-up on newcomer to Class A, Mundell. Only 1 special vehicle made it into the next 10 placings, with Class E Buckies occupying 5 spots. Less than a minute separated 13th to 18th place, and the Nissan Dealers 400 was shaping up to be a battle supreme in all the classes. These highlights are proudly brought to you by Ford, Toyota, Nissan and APSA. These highlights are proudly brought to you by Ford, Toyota, Nissan and APSA. Storm clouds, cold coastal mist and heavy winds greeted crews when they arrived at the start of the Nissan Dealers 400 on Saturday morning.
We've come down from Natal because we feel that this event needs to be supported. It is the first round of the championship and we've got 10 of us have come down, and we feel that the sport needs to be taken to all the four corners of the provinces. So this is where we are, down in the Western Cape, and we hope it'll be a good event. The weather isn't too good today, but we think that the rain will help harden the sand, so it will make a little bit of a difference. Sand cars, two-wheel drive, we're going to battle a little bit, but I think it's going to be good.
Time for the co-drivers to update their route schedules before the start of the grueling Nissan Dealers 400.
Today the weather's perfect for us. I mean, we've had rain last night and there's a bit of wind, so hopefully there won't be too much dust on the track, and it should work to our benefit.
43 crews came under starters' orders, with Hannes Grobler leading the way.
Well, we want to try and win the championship again. We had, for the last year and a half, we had quite a bit of bad luck. But I think it's changed now at the end of last year by winning the last 4 races. So I hope this year is going to go on like that, carry on like that, and we're going to try and win the championship again.
Special vehicle pole sitter Gerald Mundell previously raced a single-seater in Class B.
We've got the car going well. We had major problems last night with the fuel injection. We worked on the car all night. But it seems to be right. With a bit of help from John Hall and Nissan, we've got it going. So should be, hopefully we can keep it together.
The strategy today is, there are many 180-degree turns with a lot of sand, and the ruts are quite deep. So that's when we lose a lot of time on the 4x4s, but there are lots of flats, lots of straights, and I think we'll make a lot of time there. If the car holds, we'll be up there with them.
Dakar star and local hero Geneel de Villiers was in a relaxed mood before the start.
Well, I think it's going to be exciting. Yesterday the time trial was quite fast, and we got caught in some dust and stuff, but it was certainly very exciting, and I think we've got to really keep our finger on the button to try and get up front, but I think it's going to be a good race today.
Crews would complete one lap of 120 kilometers, followed by a lap of 68 and a final lap of 120 kilometers, with sandy conditions expected to suit the four-wheel drive brigade. Clerk of the course, Piet Swanepoel, and CPMCC officials prepared for the start of the Nissan Dealers 400, with Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek first away. Followed by teammates De Villiers and Jordan, and a determined-looking Api Reyneke in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Makregenene and Stangl inherited first place when Mundell's bats picked up problems on the start line, as Haasbroek and Skippers led the way the Class D field in their Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo were next away in the GBS Nissan Hardbody, while Mundell was trying to squeeze his way back into the queue after picking up problems on the start line. Veterans Grobler and Leek set a blistering pace right from the start in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody. Grobler last won the championship in a Nissan Safari in 1986. Teammate Geneel de Villiers won the production vehicle championship in 2002 in only his second year of off-road competition. Api Reyneke and Robin Houghton have raced together since 1995 and have won the production vehicle championship 5 consecutive times from 95 to 1999 for Toyota. Reyneke has won the production vehicle drivers championship a record 9 times. Atang Makheganene has won races as a driver and as a co-driver for Bevan Berthold in his debut year in off-road racing. His 450 brake horsepower Chevy V6 powered Jimco is a formidable machine. Piet Haasbroek and Freddie Skeepers qualified 6th fastest in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, and based on Haasbroek's past finishing record, could be expected to finish high up in the placings. Grobler and Prinsloo were the team to beat in Class D in years gone by, but had a dismal season last year. They were hell-bent on getting back into the winner's circle in the GBS Nissan. Class B leader Rob Gurney hails from KwaZulu-Natal and is part of the Gurney family who are leading cane farmers in the Eston area, where the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 is run annually. He had Andrew Birkin hot on his heels in the Wingfoot built by former circuit and off-road racer Wolf-Peter Pumpai, and literally seconds behind him were Class E leaders Manfred Schroeder and Jack Pickham in the Ford Racing Ranger. Mark Renier and Chris Birkin in the Class E Castrol Toyota Hilux had closed the gap on the Ford, while Marius van Vuren and Chris Marie in the Alberanti Land Rover had managed to nip by the two-wheel drive O'Hagan's Kopanang Hotel Jeep, driven here by Scott Abram and co-driven by Obert Carolyn. A first-time experience for both of them. But they couldn't afford to relax because Alfie Cox and Henny de Steege were closing in on them. Four-wheel drive an obvious advantage. Hannes Stein and Ferdy Segers had made up time on the Jeep and the Nissan, as had Cassie Kutsia and Okifuri in the new Class E Castrol Toyota Hilux. Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith had to start from 30th place after they encountered electronic problems on the proudly South African Nissan hardbody, and as the onboard camera sequence shows, they had a lot of overtaking to do, with first the Van der Merwe brothers falling victim, then Bez and Dion Besuidnout. This minor indiscretion slowed their progress a little. Another minor indiscretion that could have had disastrous consequences. In the 2-litre VW-powered Look Africa Truggy proved to be no match for the 3.5-litre V6-powered Nissan hardbody. Voss made short shrift of father and son Alfred and Tommy van Vuren in the Class E Nissan hardbody, and JP and Linda Augustine in the Class D GBS Nissan hardbody also presented no problem, while Andrew Birkin politely made way for the charging production vehicle champions. JP Hubert and Errol Hodgson didn't move over in the N1 4x4 Kia, and Voss was forced to find his own way past. And then another indiscretion, but nevertheless a small price to pay for all the places gained. Grobler and Leek led the charge up the only mountain on the sandy route, which had already taken a heavy toll on the special vehicles. They set a blistering pace and steadily opened a gap on their pursuers. Geniel de Villiers and Francois Jordan were well placed in second, but had lost some ground to their teammates, who were now 1 minute ahead of them. On board were third-placed Reineke and Houghton as they ploughed through the thick sand which sapped the power of their 6-cylinder Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. The pair were now 5 minutes behind the race leaders and 4 minutes behind de Villiers. Haasbroek and Skeepers had matters under control in Class D, with a Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser performing faultlessly. ...2002 Barberspun 500 winner Atang Makheganene and Mike Stangl had a comfortable lead over the rest of the special vehicle field in the SAM Racing Gymco, while Italian Rob Gurney had shown the rest of the Class B field a clean pair of heels in the Auto World JRE. Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo were having a steady run in the GBS Nissan hardbody and were second in Class D. Mark Renier, who started his motorsport career at the age of 12 and raced karts from 1990 to 1996 before joining the Total Toyota Taz development team in production car racing, had got by Schroeder in the Ford and was the new Class E leader. Ninth overall and seventh in the production vehicle category meant that Alfie Cox had gained a place in the Class D Nissan hardbody and was now also third in class. Voss and Griffith were still on their charge through the field and quickly got by Woolridge and Scholthammer in the Ford Racing Ranger. Cassie Kutsia and Okifuri were the next to fall victim. And then it was the turn of Steyn and Segers. This incident almost resulted in the Nissan getting stuck in thick sand, which would have been disastrous. But they managed to get away again and set off in pursuit of Schroeder and Peckham in the Class E Ford Racing Ranger. They then got by Marius van Vuren and Chris Marie in the Alberanti Land Rover 110 Defender and the Jeep to move into 10th place overall. The proudly South African Nissan hardbody was looking a little the worse for wear after an encounter with a gatepost. Scott Abraham and Obert Carolyn were now 11th overall and had made up 2 places since the start in the 5.9-litre V8-powered Class T Jeep Cherokee, but were being hunted down by Van Vuren and Marie in the Class D Alberanti Land Rover. Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham were second in Class E in the Ford Racing Ranger, but had veteran Cassie Kutsia, now fully recovered from injuries sustained in a stone-throwing incident during last year's O'Hagan's Kopanang Hotel 500, bearing down on them in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. Kutsia was only 1 minute and 11 seconds behind the Ford. Hannes Steyn and Ferdy Segers have been consistent performers in the past and, true to tradition, were maintaining a steady pace in the diesel-powered Class E Toyota Hilux. Woolridge and Scholthammer would have given their eye teeth to be in the cockpit of the rebuilt Class T Ford Racing Ranger that was badly damaged in a high-speed crash during the Carnival City Casino 400 last year, but had to be content with campaigning the lesser-powered Class E Ranger in Class T. The high-revving N1 4x4 Kia Sportage of JP Joubert and Errol Hodgson was 16th overall at this point. JP and Linda Augustin come from the Hartswater area and have campaigned together for a while now. The pair form part of the newly established GBS Nissan team, which entered 3 Class D Nissan hardbodies in the Nissan Dealers 400. (1991 and 92) commercial vehicle champion Alfred van Vuren and son Tommy returned to active competition 2 seasons ago and are now campaigning this Class E Nissan hardbody. Brothers Johan and Martinus van der Merwe from Harrismith are relative newcomers to the sport, and their performances in the Shivani Mitsubishi Colt improved steadily throughout the 2002 Bankfin Off-Road Championship. Andrew Birkin had adapted well to the single-seater Wingfoot after a long career driving a Toyota Hilux in the production vehicle category, and was second in Class B at this point. Former Class B champion Giel Nel is renowned for his consistent performances in the Look Africa Truggy. Never one to lead the charge early in a race, he prefers to come from behind and pick his rivals off in the closing stages of the race, and invariably win his class. Husband and wife team Niels and Zelda van der Walt have one Class E win in the Nissan Hardbody to their credit in 2002, but they would have to pick up their pace if they had any hope of another class win in the Cape. Kutsia Labuschagne and Johan Gerber are the third team in the GBS Nissan lineup and have in the past competed in Class E before making the move to Class D this season. Top Car managing editor Dion Skuman and Jan Syme entered a Class D Top Car Ferodo Nissan Hardbody in the event, but they were having a rather torrid time.
We lost one of the wheels. It actually fell off the bucket close to a marshal point, and we were trying to go really carefully just to make sure that we could actually finish. And just came around the corner, it just seemed like the tyre just climbed off the rim. Not really conducive to being careful here because you've got to keep quite a lot of momentum going. So, you know, either way, you either get stuck or you run out of wheels. Tough luck.
Capetonians Colin Herbst and Ian Rutherford entered this rather unorthodox-looking special vehicle based on a Toyota 4x4 chassis and drivetrain and powered by a Ford engine. John Ware-Smith and Jeff Minnett started 33rd in the BMW 540 V8-powered O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Jimco and were on a charge. Capetonians Johan Besuidenhout and Daniel Groenewald were having a steady run in the Class A at Denko Chenoweth, but were being chased hard by KZN farmer Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane in the Class B JRE, and fellow Capetonians, father and son Bez and Dion Besuidenhout, in the Class B Opel-powered Sandmaster. The Besuidenhout family are the driving force behind getting off-road racing established in the Cape. These highlights are proudly brought to you by Ford, Toyota, Nissan and APSA.
Live it up.
These highlights are proudly brought to you by Ford, Toyota, Nissan and APSA. A large crowd gathered in the cold, wet weather to see the crews in action in the Cape for the first time. With only 10 k's to go before the end of the first 120-kilometer lap, Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek were in a commanding lead. Geniel de Villiers and Francois Jordan were, as always, in spectacular form and maintained the pressure on their Nissan teammates. The multiple Group N and Bankfund touring car champion has certainly adapted well and very quickly to off-road racing, with his third place in this year's Dakar his crowning glory. Arpi Reinicke could not make any impression on the hard-charging Nissans and had to settle for third place in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Makhegenene managed to get through the thick sand, which decimated the special vehicle field, and had a comfortable lead in the special vehicle category. Force and Griffith were now fourth in the production vehicle category, but their charge would be short-lived, with the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody eventually retiring with gearbox problems. Haasbroek and Skeepers still led Class D in the Toyota, but Hein Grobler was steadily closing the gap in the second-placed Class D GBS Nissan Hardbody. 25-year-old Mark Runier and the veteran Chris Birkin hadn't put a wheel wrong in the Castrol Toyota Hilux and were comfortable leaders in Class E, ahead of the ever-consistent Hannes Steyn and Ferdy Segers in their Toyota Hilux double cab. The N1 4x4 Kia Sportage of JP Joubert and Errol Hodgson had started 25th overall and 7th in Class E, and were now 3rd in what has become one of the most competitive classes in off-road racing. Woolridge and Scholthammer in the Class T Ford Racing Ranger had got by teammates Schroeder and Peckham in the similar spec Class E Ranger, and they were now 4th in Class T and Class E respectively. JP and Linda Augustine were still handily placed in the Class D GBS Nissan hardbody, but would have to watch their backs because the Shivani Mitsubishi Colt of the Van der Merwe brothers was steadily closing the gap. Lap 2, and there was no holding back Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek in the race-leading Nissan. On board with Geneel de Villiers and Francois Jordan in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody. They had last won a national championship event in July last year, which was the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel 500 in Mafeking, and were hell-bent on halting their teammates' run of 4 consecutive wins. Grobler would have none of that and continued to increase his lead over de Villiers and Reineke. Castrol Toyota pair, Api Reineke and Robin Houghton, kept the pressure on de Villiers and Jordan as they ploughed through the thick sand. Hannes Grobler was in spectacular form, with a veteran rallyist reveling in the conditions, which at times were more akin to a rally special stage. The leaders were now encountering backmarkers who were still completing their first lap, and it was evident that the thick sand had caught many crews unawares. De Villiers had no problem getting past Alfred and Tommy van Vuren in the Class E Nissan hardbody. The crowd certainly enjoyed that. Api Reineke and Robin Houghton maintained station in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, which hadn't missed a beat so far. GBS racing pair Kutsia Labuskaghni and Johan Gerber were also still on their first lap and enjoying the added power from the Class D Nissan versus that of their previous Class E vehicle. Husband and wife Niels and Zelda van der Walt were also on their first lap, but making steady progress in the Class E Nissan hardbody. Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond's prolonged bat had been plagued by fuel pressure problems since after the prologue, and they were still 10 kilometers from the end of their first lap. Piet Haasbroek and Freddie Skeepers still led Class D in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and were well placed to take advantage of any problems that the Class T contenders might encounter along the way. John Weir-Smith and Jeff Minnett's charge was halted when they got stuck and their engine overheated in the 40-kilometer-long thick sand section of the route, and were now 1 lap behind special vehicle category leaders Atang Makhegenene and Mike Stangl, whom they had just overtaken. The BMW 540 V8 motor fitted to the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Gymco later cried enough, and they were forced into early retirement. Not that he had to, but Makhegenene nevertheless gave chase. Scott Abraham and Obert Carolyn were a lap down and had got stuck in the sand for 45 minutes in the two-wheel drive O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Jeep, and then, to make matters worse, had to contend with an under-bonnet fire before they got underway again. Giel Nell's Look Africa Truggy was one of the few special vehicles that made it through the thick sand and was the new Class B leader. Once again, his consistency had paid off. Andrew Birkin had also had a tough time in the sandy section, but managed to get through unscathed and now held down second place in Class B. Klerksdorp-based Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo were second in Class D in the GBS Nissan Hardbody, but they would later drop down the order when they lost four-wheel drive and had to complete the event in two-wheel drive. Alfie Cox impressed the pundits with his smooth, fast pace and had claimed third in Class D at this stage of the Nissan Dealers 400. Co-driver Henny Tersteege is hugely experienced and well equipped to act as onboard tutor for the motorcycle ace. Colin Herbst and Ian Rutherford were also a lap down on the leading group, but had nevertheless had a steady run so far in their Class A 4x4 special vehicle, but they too would retire later in the race. The thick sand posed no problems for Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin, who now had Class E under their total control and were lying 9th overall in the production vehicle category. The designated service point in Darling was a hive of activity.
Man, the top loop is sandy. It's bad. Nice routes marked well, but yeah, this is definitely a different off-road race to what we've been used to. Okay, go.
Marius van Vuren was out of the race, and there were still some problems with the Kia. Reigning Class B champions Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane called in for some fuel. Officials battled in the windy conditions, and others like Woolridge and Scholthammer, whose Ford is fitted with a long-range tank, passed straight through.
Marking could be a bit better, and the thick sand is really difficult.
Johan and Martinez van der Merwe in the Shivani Mitsubishi Colt led a string of vehicles into the pits, with some needing nothing more than fuel and others heading for retirement. Fortunately, the van der Merwes only needed some fuel. Dion Skuman and Jan Simon got the stricken top car Ferroda Nissan going again.
Double broker, a clutch and fourth gear, and fuel's all leaking and power steering, lost power steering. So can't go in the sand without the gears. It doesn't work.
The top car Ferroda Nissan looked a little bit worse for wear.
We thought we were out because we lost a wheel earlier on at the marshalling point, but then another Nissan had a breakdown so we could take their wheels, which allowed us to continue. So we lost a lot of time, but it's still going all right. We'll just keep on losing our spare wheels off the back, which is no good. Good luck, guys.
The Van der Walt couple bypassed the pits in the Class E Nissan hardbody, while there was a driver change in the Jeep with Owen Carolyn taking his turn at the wheel.
Scotty's one's behind him over there, Frankie.
Refuel time for the Look Africa truggy. A rather forlorn Jeff Minnitt on his way to the pits.
Looks like it's been a long walk.
a slow walk.
What happened?
The car stopped. Had a couple of technical problems and it stopped.
How were you going up until then?
No, fine. Okay. We're making up some time. We obviously didn't have a great start this morning, but we'd made up a lot of time and we were happy. We were second and, well into the race.
We started off in the B class with 12 entrants and the fourth.
These highlights are proudly brought to you by Ford, Toyota, Nissan and ABSA. The final lap of the Nissan Dealers 400 and Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek was still in the lead in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody. Castrol Toyota pair Alpi Reineke and Robin Houghton were now in second spot and on a charge after having overtaken the ailing Nissan of Geniel de Villiers and Francois Jordan. De Villiers was forced to slow his pace dramatically, and the 40-kilometer-long thick sand section that had taken so many casualties would prove too much for the proudly South African Nissan, which later retired with suspension failure. With Grobler and Leek long gone, but with their Nissan experiencing overheating problems, it was Reineke and Houghton who emerged from the end of the 40-kilometer-long thick sand section, with the De Villiers Nissan nowhere to be seen. Disaster had finally struck, and the chase was now on. With the special vehicle field down to 1 Class A and 3 Class B cars, Atang Makekhenene and Mike Stangel had only to maintain a steady pace, and victory would be theirs. Alfie Cox and Henny Terstegen were the new Class D leaders. Sadly, they would later retire from the Nissan Dealers 400 when the clutch on the Nissan hardbody broke 8 kilometers from the finish. Mark Renier and Andrew Birkin went on to finish third overall in the production vehicle category and first in Class E in only their first outing together in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. A giant-killing debut performance by the Rotax Max karting world champion. Kasi Kutsia and Okifuri went on to finish fourth overall in the production vehicle category and second in Class E in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. Brothers Johan and Martinez van der Merwe clinched the Class D win and finished fifth overall in the production vehicle category in the Shivani Mitsubishi Colt. A well-earned third in Class T and sixth overall in the production vehicle category for Scott Abraham, Obert Carolyn and the O'Hagan's Kopenhagen Hotel Jeep. GBS Racing's JP and Linda Augustin finished second in Class D and seventh overall in the production vehicle category, while Niels and Zelda van der Walt finished third in Class E and eighth overall in their Nissan hardbody, and were followed home by Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo in another GBS Racing Nissan hardbody. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek had to stop 3 times for water at farm dams and were delayed for 4 minutes at the railway crossing, which allowed Alpi Reineke and Robin Houghton to whittle away at the Nissan pair's lead. But the proudly South African Nissan crew had done enough to win their 5th consecutive event in convincing style. And what better way to win than to win your own company-sponsored event?
Very nice. It was very fast. Yesterday I thought it's going to be more of a rally, but today they threw us with quite a lot of off-road stuff. A lot of sand, especially on this second long loop, and the trucks worked hard there. But we're glad to be here.
Arpi Reinecker and Robin Houghton put in a tremendous charge once they knew of the leading Nissan's problems and managed to close the gap from over 10 minutes to 3 minutes and 24 seconds at the finish. But it just wasn't enough. Atang Makhagenene started the season with a win, just as he had done last year when he won the season opening Barberspun 500. And he and Mike Stangl could be justifiably proud of their performance on the Nissan Dealers 400. Certainly a great way to start the season.
First in class, first in category.
Oh, thank you. It's a hell of a race, you know. It's too sandy, too twisty.
Shot the other two.
We had a problem with our sensors. We had to stop to fix it. But another problem. Alternator belt broke. We lost about 25 minutes in total. But we made it to the end. Thanks to the reliable engine. Chevy. Hello, mommy.
Overall victory and the Class T honours in the Nissan Dealers 400 went to Nissan for the 8th time in 9 events. Toyota picked up the Class E win, with the Class D win going to Mitsubishi. Only 4 special vehicles finished, with the Class A win going to Makhagenene and Stangl, and the Class B win to the ever-consistent Giel Nel. The Production Vehicle Drivers and Co-Drivers Championship sees Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek top the points table, with Mark Renier and Chris Birkin only 2 points behind. The Van der Merwe brothers are a further 2 points adrift in 3rd place. An interesting start, certainly, to the 2003 SA Off-Road Car Championship. Mark Renier's performance proved once again just how talented a driver he is. Not only is he a national and world champion karter, but he has also excelled in production car racing. This is what he had to say about his off-road racing debut.
The difficult part was more the long, tedious sitting in the seat, concentrating all the time. But I found the vehicle fairly easy to drive in a sense that it handles the rough fairly well, and it can take a lot of punishment. And yeah, I was happy with it.
Alfie Cox is a hugely talented off-road motorcyclist and has won various national off-road and enduro titles 12 times since 1985. He has excelled in the Dakar Rally, and his 2nd place on this year's event has made him a household name throughout the world. A broken clutch robbed him of a debut class win on 4 wheels.
Things were going absolutely unbelievable. I mean, no heroics, just getting used to the car, and you know, eventually we were lying 3rd overall and winning the class. And 8 kilometers from the end, we took our shoes out and started walking. It looked like the clutch is gone and there was no more drive, and you know, without it not even moving a millimeter, there's nothing we can do. But I've just had an absolutely unbelievable day. It's been really a great experience for me.
Well, for the first time out, I think you did a very great job, and it shows you came. Well, we were 1st in our class, 3rd overall, and for the first time out, I think it's a very nice thing to do for Alfie.
The Special Vehicle Championship is wide open after what can best be described as a race of attrition in the Cape. The 4 teams that made it to the finish have a clear advantage over those who did not finish and those who did not make the trip to the Nissan Dealers 400. The next round of the South African Off-Road Car Championship is the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 in the Eston area near Pietermaritzburg on May 9 and 10. The 2002 event attracted a huge entry, and it was Gary and Boda Berthold in the M&E Glass Bat who set the fastest time in the prologue. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek in the Nissan were the fastest in the production vehicle category. Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham won Class E in the diesel-powered Ford Racing Ranger, while Piet Haasbroek and Christer Bosch took the Class D honours in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. The 2001 SA production vehicle driver and co-driver champions Camille de Villiers and François Jordan trounced the opposition in the Nissan Hardbody to record their first win of the season. A first and second for Nissan, with class wins for Toyota and Ford, and 5 different makes represented in the top 10 placings. Mr. Consistency, Giel Nel, picked up yet another Class B win in the immaculately prepared Look Africa Truggy. Greg Dowse won the Class S in the Nashua Mobile Raceco, and John Weir-Smith and Tony George were in spectacular form as they powered the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Gymco to overall victory. As was to be expected, the Class A cars dominated the top 10 placings. The route for this year's Nissan Sugarbelt 400 will comprise 3 laps of 130 kilometers each, with an interesting mix of terrain ranging from cane fields to forestry to mountainous sections, all within easy reach of main and district roads. The prologue gets underway on Friday the 9th of May at 12:30, and the race proper starts from the Beaumont Eston Farmers Club at 8 a.m. on Saturday the 10th of May, with the first car due at the finish at 2:30. Highlights of the Nissan Dealers 400, round 1 of the